Hi everybody, welcome to Plant Fact Friday with the Plant Doctors. I'm Dr. Odendron, Phyllis Odendron.
And I'm Dr. Rillis, Dr. Amy Rillis. And we're here for what is a fairly routine practice for us. We're giving this plant its annual checkup, and we're here in the Chem and Plant Sciences Lab. Our patient today is a moth orchid, also known as a Phalaenopsis orchid. Her name is Olivia the orchid, and Olivia has been so kind to allow us to film this checkup so that we can all learn what there is to know.
So if you don't know, just like humans, plants have organs. So today we'll be talking about each of the plant organs. We'll be inspecting Olivia's organs to make sure that they're all in working order, and hopefully we can give her a clean bill of health.
That's right. So let's start from the bottom with roots. Roots are like sponges in that they absorb water and nutrients from the soil. They're also like anchors because they hold that plant in place. Now Phyllis is doing a little routine check of the reflexes, looking great there.
Yep.
Now our orchid here, Olivia, has roots that don't really play by the rules. What I mean is that these roots are above the soil. We call that kind of root an adventitious root. It's any root that grows above the soil. And in Olivia's case, she's typically growing on top of other plants, maybe even high up in a tree. So it makes sense that her roots are adapted to be above the soil. Another thing that Olivia has going on, and all Phalaenopsis orchids do, is that her roots, her adventitious roots, have a coating called velamen. This velamen gives us a grayish green hue to her roots, and it's a layer of cells that helps to absorb water and nutrients. But it also helps the underlying tissue not be affected by UV radiation. So if I am going to check on her roots, I would say they're definitely holding her in place, definitely still absorbing those water and nutrients, and her adventitious roots are luscious and beautiful. I would give her a clean bill of health.
All right, roots.
Check.
Check. All right, next we have
the stem.
Perfect. So let's take a look at Olivia's stem here. Now, what you might see is this structure. Now, that is not a stem. That is a part of the inflorescence or the flower structure. The stem of Olivia is actually here in between the different leaves, and the stem is a highway for nutrients and water. So water and nutrients are moving throughout the plant, all throughout the stem, giving it to the flowers, the roots, and the leaves. So if we're looking at Olivia here, it obviously looks like nutrients and water are passing throughout the plant. If we have a lack of sunlight, we might see her extending that stem in what we call legginess, which makes her tall and spindly. But she's looking good. Let's give her a check.
All right, check for stems. Now, what is next is the leaves. And leaves, we like to say, are like solar panels for the plant. That is because this is the site of a very important process called photosynthesis. This is a chemical reaction that literally turns the sun's rays into food for this plant. So it's making its own food right inside of its body. Amazing. And the reason many leaves are green is because there's a pigment called chlorophyll, which is a key part of this process, and that pigment happens to be green. These leaves are looking lovely, nice and clean. There's a few blemishes, but we all have our blemishes. She's perfectly healthy. I would say with your own plants at home, you want to make sure to care for the leaves. That means occasionally dusting them, just like anything in your home. They might gather dust, and that dust makes it a little hard for them to photosynthesize at their max capacity. Also, when you're watering your plant, make sure never to water the leaves. That's never helpful. Best case scenario, it's just going to evaporate and it's not used by the plant. Worst case scenario, it could actually invite rotting or burning of the leaf. So we want to avoid watering the leaves. But for Olivia, I would give her a A+ in leaves.
Awesome. So our next organ are the flowers. Olivia here has bright, beautiful flowers, as we can see. Now, as Dr. Amy said, these are moth orchids, and they do get that name from the moth-like appearance of their flowers. Now, the function of the flower organ is to attract pollinators. Some flowers are very generalist in doing this. They have pollen and nectar and bright, beautiful colors to attract those pollinators. That could be anything from bees, butterflies, even birds. Some orchids specifically have one pollinator that they try to attract. But this moth orchid here, Olivia, she's attracting bees, butterflies, and moths. And she's doing a great job of that. You can see the bright, beautiful flowers. In the center here, we have a little bit of yellow. That's going to tell the pollinator exactly where to go to get that pollen to transfer from flower to flower so pollination can occur. So I would say her flowers are looking beautiful, fantastic, and these might last up to 6 months here on Olivia.
So definitely an investment.
Yes, definitely. So her flowers are looking great, which leads us to the next organs.
That's right. The last organs are the fruits and the seeds. We like to consider fruits a suitcase for seeds. And now what that means is that inside of every fruit, you will find seeds. If anyone out there is thinking about strawberries, we will talk about that later. See me after class. But fruits on this orchid look like a long, sort of like a capsule with many, many seeds on the inside. Now, fruits are the result of successful pollination. This orchid has not been pollinated, but if she ever should be pollinated, she is in a prime position to produce some beautiful fruits. And now you may be thinking, this pod from an orchid, that jogs my memory. That's because it looks very similar to another orchid fruit that we know and love, and that is the vanilla bean. Olivia's good cousin, the vanilla orchid, produces a bean which is long and thin and black in color, and that is where we get vanilla flavoring.
Perfect.
So I'm going to give her a check mark under fruits and seeds.
So how did she do?
Well, I'm seeing 5 check marks for a clean bill of health. So we can send Olivia back into the greenhouses knowing that she's fully healthy, and we'll see her again next year for her checkup.
That's right. If you want to come visit Olivia and check out all of her organs for yourself, you can come visit her during the whole month of March, where we'll be talking about plant party and plant parts in our signage. Specifically during the week of spring break, we have a plant part printmaking activity you can come join us for, where we will be making art from each of these plant organs, which is pretty cool.
Yes, and if you just can't wait until then to see Olivia, you can actually come visit us. We have tickets still available for our Dome After Dark event, which is tonight, so you can see Olivia in a whole new light.
All right, we'll see you guys next week. We hope you learned a little bit more about plant organs today.
Stay healthy.
Bye.